Peace, peace, peace. Today, y'all, we're gonna jump straight in, man. We're dealing with this tool right here. Living in the private is it's basically a book that you can get, or like a read that you can get. Right here. It's called Living in the Private. Educate yourself, ask questions, verify everything. You know what I'm saying? So it has a lot of great lawful and legal information dealing with the private side of things and the public side of things. So let me show you something real fast. Like you can see, in the background of the picture that you see right here, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It says basically this note is legal tender. Yeah, I was trying to blow it up real fast. Let's see. You see, right? This note, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. So it tells you right there on the dollar bill that there's a public and a private side of things. So let's go into that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna read off this thing here from this book here, living in the private, and we're gonna go in and deal with it. All right. So you got living in the private, dead or alive, where you stand, crossing the line, public trust, all of that. You can see a table of contents here. You know, you know what I mean? Your living identity, the autograph, unalienable rights, your consent, parts of contract, null and void contracts, rebut the presumption, you know what I mean? Power of word, your credit, all of that good stuff. Laws, the laws versus statutes, you know what I mean? Administrative courts, void courts whenever possible. So I'm gonna start off and I'm gonna just let this here. I'm gonna let it read off and just give you a little background information before I get into um, breaking down what else I'm gonna break down. In the private, every natural man and woman is born in the private. Private. Whereas a sovereign government of the people is a public institution, and therefore its public servants and its various artificial creations are in the public, including its artificial legal persons. A man or woman can either live in the private or act in the public. However, we are trained from an early age to accept a higher authority as normal. Most people exist in a culture of submission and conformity, allowing numerous aspects of their lives to be controlled by the government. The populace is manipulated to become dependent debt money and conditioned to become fearful racism, terrorism, and wars. The manner and appearance of authority is usually intimidating by design, while the language of legal fiction commerce, legalese, is deceptive. You are indoctrinated to act in the role of a legal person, which is an artificial creation of the state, and a debtor serving as surety for the corporate debt of your nation, Inc. An artificial legal person is dead, and under the Foreign Admiralty Maritime Jurisdiction, the international law of the sea. On the contrary, you are born into your own sovereign estate of body, mind, and soul. As a sentient man or woman, you live within the sovereign common law jurisdiction, the national law of the land. Your sovereign jurisdiction, including your inborn unalienable living rights, cannot be taken from you without your fully informed and willing consent. Legal person actors for governments, banks, and all corporate entities need to contract with other legal person actors to extract their commercial energy. These legal actors make the presumption that you are also acting in the role of a legal person in legal fiction commerce, which is why they are seeking a contract performance. They always want the name, and often the creation date of the person to establish joinder.
Right. So, for example, that they always want the name of the legal fiction of the so-called straw man, the false name that they made out of you when you were born. Your mother gave you an original name, and then they took that name and turned it into a corporate fiction, a legal fiction, all capital letter name, and then they put it on the market via the birth certificate. They securitize the birth certificate through the Department of Vital Statistics. They made it a security, and then they also monetize it. You know what I mean, and put it on the market. You know what I'm saying? So we're being traded on the market as equitable stocks. You know what I'm saying? And we've been gaining equity ever since our birth through the birth certificate and social security number and all of that. So now the thing is that being that you have all this equity, you have benefits through that, but they're being regulated on the public side of things through public trustees or public custodians because we're considered to be state property. So therefore they're acting as our parents, but we keep acting like minorities. Root word of minority is minor, which means an adolescent, one who thinks an adolescent state of mind and doesn't act for himself. You need someone to act for him. That's why they were telling things like get a lawyer and stuff like that. Because a lawyer in court. Because when you get a lawyer, you're showing that you're incompetent and you're getting someone to represent you, or not even represent you, represent the straw man and turn you over to the court. That's what the attorney does. He turns you over to the jurisdiction of the court. Because once you say you are that person and then you got somebody else representing you, you're incompetent and you need to be spoken for. You're a minority. And therefore, they speak for you and then turn you over to the jurisdiction of the court. You know what I mean? And that's their way of joinder. So, like I said, they need a person.
Joinder. They need a person because there's absolutely no way they can contract directly with a living man or woman. They need a man or woman to consent to take responsibility in the matter of the person, unknowingly or knowingly, which is joinder. When a living name is mirrored by the registration of an artificial legal person on the birth certificate, an estate trust is formed, such as Mr. John Doe Trust. Any living man or woman unknowingly in joinder to such an artificial legal person blindly takes responsibility for the alleged debts of the trust as its trustee. Whereas an aware living man or woman can separate themselves from the legal fiction and become the rightful controlling agent, beneficiary, executor for Mr. John Doe Trust. Legal actors will attempt to engage the person by posting letters.
Well, how do you do that? How do you become the living man or woman and separate yourself from the legal fiction? Well, you create a will and also create a trust. And you transfer all the assets of the so-called legal fiction, the straw man, you transfer all those assets into your will and your trust. And that way you now have the assets held in trust, held in will. Now you're showing competence that you're planning your estate, you're administrating your estate. Now you're showing competence to the so-called government or to the so-called custodians or public trustees that you are now handling the public trust in the private. So you don't need their help anymore. You don't need their control anymore. You're controlling it yourself. This is what they don't want you to do. Therefore, they want you to be liable as the straw man or liable for the straw man instead of being the living being and controlling the straw man.
By phone or on the highway to make and enforce a contract. Misrepresenting a living man or woman as a fictional person, causing unwitting joinder, is the crime of personage, and it is perpetuated by 2 Table of Contents. Barratry, the crime of bringing false claims in court. The term barratry, appropriately, comes from the Bar Association.
The Bar Association.
Attempted joinder by any legal person actor is a crime involving deceit, Section 240 of the NZ Crimes Act. Under the common law,
that's our New Zealand Crime Act. this information is dealing with like New Zealand, like the crown of crown of England and all that. But the same stuff applies in the United States because the same information, the same stuff. You know what I'm saying? They got the Sister K Bay Trust over there, and they got the same thing. They got the Social Security Administration over here. Same thing.
Jurisdiction.
Because it's all ran through the IMF, you know what I'm saying, the International Monetary Fund. When they make you a straw man, a legal fiction, then they create an account through the International Monetary Fund, and then they can do what they do to cheat your estate.
Jurisdiction. Law of the land. Both parties must enter into every contract knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally, or the contract is unenforceable and void.
Right. So in other words, when you sign a birth certificate, you know what I'm saying? Like when you sign for a father, right? When you sign the acknowledgement of paternity, you look on the paternity, when you sign the name, there's a small little print that says you are obligated to pay child support or support for this child. You know what I'm saying? And that's how they trap you into the whole child support thing. But the reality is that as a man, if you're taking care of your children naturally, you don't need to be trapped into a system to tell you how to take care of your kids and put you on a schedule and a regimen and all up in your business and telling you this and telling you that and da 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 da. And if you don't pay this, we're gonna revoke your license, take your passport, do this, do that. If you don't pay this amount, we're gonna put you in jail. All this other stuff that's extra that they try to hold you to a contract, but they never gave you full disclosure of any of this. You know what I'm saying? In that little line that says you'll pay, okay, I'll pay child support, but does it say all this other stuff? You know what I'm saying? No, it doesn't. So that's lack of full disclosure.
Void.
Which makes the contract null and void. You know what I'm saying? So you can counterclaim on a contract.
Void. However, under the Admiralty Maritime Jurisdiction, law of the sea, consent to contract can be presumed by silent acquiescence, unless the party contracted thereby rebuts the presumption of consent.
Right, now how do you rebut the presumption of consent? By, now that I know better now, if I have another child, I'm going to draw up an agreement with the child's mother. We're going to draw up our will. We're going to have all these documentations in place to show that we already have the administration for our child planned out. And the government doesn't need to step in and try to take control and do all this stuff and yada, yada, yada. You know what I'm saying? So immediately we'll take that birth certificate and transfer it over into the will. You know what I'm saying? So that way, you know what I'm saying, there's no type of false joinder and there's no all of the ramifications that try to come along with that.
Consent. If you do not wish to consent to their contract offer, presentment, you must rebut the presumption that you are acting in the role of a fictional legal person. You are never obliged to answer questions or to provide government-issued ID. Truly, to uphold your government of the people, it is not your duty to answer questions. It is your duty to ask questions. You have the right to know who is making a claim against you, the right to know who the injured party is, the right to conditionally accept any claim against you upon verification, the right to reserve your rights without prejudice, and thereafter the right to remain silent to avoid self-incrimination. The following definitions apply to the de facto incorporated state, in which the agencies of government and all artificial legal persons are merely corporate franchises. In the public, in the private. Public equals government private. Created by the state, created by nature, God. Public servant, private sovereign. Acting in a public capacity, living in private capacity. Member of the public, we the people. Legal fictions, lawful fact.
Pause. Okay, now that whole "we the people," I gotta break that down because people be under a misconception about that whole "we the people," and they be thinking when they say "we the people" that they're talking about like the common, the average, person, you know what I'm saying, walking around. No, they're not talking. That's not who they're talking about. When they say "we the people," they're talking about the members of the bar association or the members of their government or whatever the case may be, you know what I'm saying? Or whoever the initial signees onto the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and all of that. You know what I'm saying? Whoever those people were. That's who we the people are. And so, for example, I'll give you a prime example to show and prove how we, the average, people or whatever, are not we the people. If you get a court case, right? You ever heard a court case where they say we the people versus John Smith, da 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 da, whoever, whatever your name is, right? So, or the state versus so and so, right? So if it's the state versus or we the people versus John Smith, then John Smith is obviously not part of we the people because it doesn't say we the people versus we the people. And if it's we the people versus John Smith, then John Smith is obviously not part of we the people because we the people wouldn't be going against their own people, right? In fact, you wouldn't be able to have the same parties go against each other. That would be a conflict of interest, wouldn't it? You know what I'm saying? So come on now. That's like the the prosecutor trying to go against a judge or something. They don't never do that. They work hand in hand. He's working with the judge. If anything, he wants to try to see the judge as a genie and rub the judge the right way so he can get favor of the court, which is favor of the judge. So they be kissing ass and doing all that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? But and that's reality too. There's a conflict of interest because the prosecutor is working is a member of the bar association, and the judge is a member of the bar association, or the lawyer or whatever that's the opposing lawyer is a member of the bar association. Then obviously they're all on the same team, and that is a clear conflict of interest, which means that like obviously I want this dismissed due to a lack of a conflict of interest. Come on, man. What is this, man? This is unlawful. See, so
Facts.
anyway, so now they're about to break down private and public, the by definitions or whatever.
Private. To be in the private is to live in a private capacity as a man or woman with flesh and blood, arms and legs, a conscious mind, a spirit, and life.
Right.
All men and women are created as equal sovereigns, endowed with unalienable rights, responsibilities, and credit, commercial energy. As natural men and women, they are creditors. Their right to contract is unlimited, and they have unlimited liability. They are outside and above the state. From Latin privatus, set apart, belonging to oneself, not to the state. Public. To be in the public is to act in a public capacity, as an accommodation party in joinder to an artificial person created and governed by the state. All men and women who act in legal fiction roles for the state are granted conditional privileges and benefits prescribed in legislative acts.
Right.
As artificial persons, they are debtors.
Pause. So let's just deal with that right there, right? It said as a private person, private, to be in the private is to live in a private capacity as a man or woman with flesh and blood, arms and legs, conscious mind, spirit, and life. You know what I mean? Equal sovereign, unalienable rights, responsible, and credit, commercial energy. As a natural man or woman, they are creditors. So as in the public to be in the public is to act as a public act in a public capacity as an accommodation party and joinder to an artificial person. So in other words, you go around with the state ID and you go around signing documents in the straw man name, in the name that was given to you originally by your mother, but was turned into a corporate fictional name by the government. You know what I'm saying? By the state. They turned your mother's given name into a fictional name, put it in all capital letters or whatever, da 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 da. But then in school, they didn't tell you write your name in all capital letters the same way they may have it on your birth certificate. Sometimes they don't always have it in all caps in the birth certificate, but anyway, it's still same shit. So, um, but when you write your name in school, you write first letter capital, rest lowercase. And they gonna go into all of that, you know what I'm saying, in the breakdown and all that. But what I'm trying to say is, in the sense is that if you do things in a private, you're living as a living being, handling your own affairs, um, filing your own taxes, handling all everything and all that. Da, da, da. In the public, you're basically allowing them to do everything, and you're acting in joinder to the artificial entities, which is the straw man. And then, you're playing a role, saying for the state and this or with the state as an artificial entity in the state, and then they grant you conditional privileges and benefits. You know what I'm saying? uh, prescribed in legislative acts. So, for example, like the Civil Rights Act or the this Act or the whatever Act, what I'm saying, whatever, da da da. HAR 192, House Joint Resolution 192, where it says that all debts is basically paid for. The United States government is responsible to pay the debts of the American people. So, and that was because of the 1933 gold seizure and all of that, and all of that, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, so now as we living in the public, what I'm saying, we're acting as a jointer to the straw man. We want to, like I said, open up our will, open up our trust, transfer close the minor account by transferring the all the assets from the straw man into the private account of the living man, into the private will and trust of the living man. You know what I'm saying? To your private will and trust. You know what I mean? So yeah. And then, like I said, that way you're operating things and you're administrating things from the private side as a living man. And that way, the living and the dead can't mix. You know what I'm saying? They can't try to bring charges or claims against the living man. So, but as long as you're claiming to be a joiner to the straw man, they can hold you liable for anything they want to under that. You know what I mean? That's why we got to get rid of these state IDs, develop our own righteous name, and develop our own personal and private identifications, and there's statutes and laws and all of that that back up the fact that you're able to identify yourself as you choose and create your own ID and all that good stuff. It's called the Real ID Act. Look it up. The Real ID Act. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, facts. So let's continue.
Debtors. Their right to contract is 3 Table of Contents. Limited, and they have limited liability. They are inside and under the state. From Latin publicus, of the people, of the state, done for the state.
All right, now they're about to break down this right here. Really going into they say dead or alive. You know what I'm saying? In fact, I'm gonna read this off. Well, no, I'm gonna let it play back. I'm gonna go back and break it down. Actually, it's kind of self-explanatory, but I'll go back.
Dead or alive.
Part of stuff, and when they read from the artificial side, so they read all the stuff on the left side is the dead and the dead, on the public. Everything on the natural side is living, alive. Well, this is public and this is private. Dead is public, artificial is dead in the public, alive is natural in the living, in the private.
Artificial natural law of the sea, Admiralty Maritime Jurisdiction Statutes, Acts, Rules, Codes. Law of the land, common law jurisdiction, do no harm, dead legal personality, registered living lawful man, woman recorded, artificial person, corporation, natural person, human public servant bonded private sovereign free, public capacity limited, private capacity, unlimited legal privileges, a benefits granted, and revocable lawful rights, properties inherent and inviolable legislated rights prescribed by the state, unalienable rights, cannot be alienated, debtor liable for debts, creditor creator of wealth, trust trustee always pays, trust beneficiary always benefits, accommodation party debtor, secured party creditor, legal commerce vessel on the sea, lawful trade man, woman on the land, signature fiction, John Henry Doe. Autograph, fact by John Henry Doe, all rights reserved.
All right, now let me go back up a moment. All right, so you got, like I said, you got the dead side, which is this over here, this is the dead side, dead or alive. So artificial is the dead that's in the public. The natural is in the private. You know, when you go into court and they be like, all rise. What do you mean all rise? As if like they're resurrecting you, as if you're dead and they want the dead to rise. All rise. And another thing is too, right? You know how like, you know what I'm saying, you be in the court and shit early in the morning and shit, you be tired in there. You know what I'm saying? People be in there half sleep and shit. They be like, you know what I'm saying, you be like half dead and shit. They be like, all rise. And then somebody stand up. Oh, okay, worshipful master. We worship you, worshipful master. Let us stand up and give honor to the so-called magistrate who acts as a judge. Oh, all hail, Master Mason 32-degree Shriner, who hails from the lodge of whatever. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? Well, that's just actual fact, you know what I'm saying? And they act like they, you know what I'm saying, because they dealing with magic, man. You know what I'm saying? They dealing with magic. Remember, right? The judge, he can send you a summons. He can send you a summons or a subpoena to come to court. More so, let's deal with the word summons, because summons means to conjure. You know what I'm saying? And when you conjure, usually they conjure what? Energies, conjure spirits, right? We deal with, you know, sorcery and things of that nature. They conjure up energies, they conjure spirits. So how do they do that to you? Okay, the judge says, oh, send you out a subpoena. Or you might be in court and he tells you, you be like, yo, man, I'm not coming back here, man. You ain't got no jurisdiction over me, and da da da. And you say all of that. And he'd be like, okay, well, if you don't come to court next time, I'm going to issue a warrant for your arrest. And you know what I'm saying? You'd be like, oh man. Or and you'd be like, yeah, whatever, man. You know what I'm saying? You walk out, you play tough at the time. But then you walk out, and then a couple of days later, or the next time you don't go to court, and then a couple of days later you get that letter in the mail. Oh, there's issued a warrant for your arrest. You need to come appear before the court, appear before the judge. You know, whatever, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And then boom, they issue a warrant, right? So now you like, damn, man, I need to go and, you know, come before the judge, man. You know what I'm saying? See, I mean, it's about to go lock me up, man. It's a warrant for my arrest, man. Oh, man, da, 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 da. You know what I'm saying? Or even if you got that subpoena or that summons to come, and you was like, damn, they said they're going to arrest me if I don't come. So now you have a spirit. They just sent out to you a spirit of fear. They injected a spirit of fear in you. So now you're afraid. Your energy is all frantic. You don't know what to do. You're like, oh, man. You know what I'm saying? They said if I don't come to court, you know what I'm saying? They're going to lock me up. Oh, shit, man. What am I going to do, man? Yo, man, know what, man? Fuck it, man. Let me just go down here, man, and see what they're saying, man. You know what I mean? I ain't trying to get locked up, man. You know what I'm saying? Right? So you go down to the court now, and now what you do is you physically appear before the magician, aka the magistrate. Root word magi. Root word of magician. Ooh, root word of magician is magi, right? Root word of magistrate is magi, right? Root word of magic is magi, right? And also, who is the Magi or the Magi? The Magi goes back to ancient Kemet, where they were the ones who were supposed to safeguard the knowledge of ancient Kemet. They were called the Magi. You know what I'm saying? They like after like certain kings had died, or you know what I'm saying, they were like the ones who came around and safeguarded the sacred lands and safeguarded certain texts and knowledge and whatnot. They were called the Magi. You know what I'm saying? And they would preserve the knowledge. Who's trying to act that way? Where do you go to file all these documents, right? You file them in the courts, right? And where does the before the judge comes out, he has all the documents in his what? Chambers, right? Hmm. You know what I'm saying? Who are they imitating? You know what I'm saying? You know, see the back of the dollar bill. You know what I'm saying? You see the pyramids. You know what I mean? In God we trust and all that. See right above the judge's head, what does it say? In God we trust. So what are they doing? They're placing that's fiat. You know what I'm saying? That's their fiat, and they're placing uh, the authority of God in trust. See what I'm saying? In God we trust. So they're placing the authority of God in trust, and now they basically placed in trust the authority of God, so-called, which gives them the authority to basically one, as they say, one nation under God with liberty and justice for all, right? So in the name of God, they say that they are able to bring about liberty and justice, right? So justice, justice, if liberty is synonymous, is almost equated with freedom, and I say almost because freedom and liberty is two different degrees. But however, liberty is somewhat associated with freedom, then you said liberty and justice, then justice must only be referred to the bad end of the stick or the bad side of justice. That's why we don't ever get no good side of justice. You know what I'm saying? Is justice only bad? Isn't justice supposed to be the reward for good and the punishment for bad? You know what I'm saying? Or wrong, whatever, evil, whatever. So if it's supposed to be justice, they obviously not dealing with fair justice. You know what I'm saying? You know, and you know, justice is number 10 in the alphabet. The 10th letter is J. In our supreme alphabet, that's justice. And we know that before one can bring about justice or bring about a judgment, you have to first, number 10, you have to first do the knowledge to the cipher before you bring about a judgment or before you bring about any type of justice. You know what I'm saying? So that's why police, a lot of times, they don't uphold justice because a lot of times the police are called, you know what I'm saying? Which means that they were not there to do the knowledge to the cipher. They were not an eyewitness to anything. And this is why I was also saying, and this is why when they come and try to run down on a person, you running down on this person, sometimes almost using deadly force based off what somebody just said. You know what I'm saying? Somebody can sit, that's why they got a crime, that's why they got a law they just passed about coming out about how, like, you know, they're gonna stop calls that are racially motivated. Like, you know, you can't just pick up the phone anymore and be like, oh, there's a black man. I think he's following me. I feel really unsafe. And, oh, please come over here. And now the police just run up and see any black man in sight and just run down on him. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah. They got a law now. They preventing that shit now. You know what I'm saying? And rightfully so. You know what I'm saying? Um, but you know what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to say is, like, you know what I'm saying, the cop won't even be there to do the knowledge to the cipher, and he wasn't there to do the knowledge to the cipher, but then he'll run down on the person thinking that they're bringing about justice. But it's always, like I said, the bad end of the stick. It's always the bad side of justice. Like, you running after this person as a criminal, but never running after this person like, yo, bro, we just want to talk to you and see what's going on. You know, we're trying to figure out what happened. Someone made a call. They said, you know, blah, 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 blah. We want to see what's going on. Now, sometimes they actually do that. I'm not going to say, like, you know, all cops are bad. Sometimes they actually do that. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of times, you already know. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, yeah. And oh, which brings me to also to the fact that what I was saying before, my other live, and I'm gonna wrap this up soon, y'all, after I break these things down. I ain't gonna throw this one out too long. You know, that's why police reports are not admissible as evidence in a court. Remember that, y'all. Police reports are not admissible as evidence in a court. And I was further realizing the other day too. The reason why also too is because, like I just said, police are not. They're usually called. Like I said, unless a cop catches you in the act of a crime, then he can actually say he was an eyewitness to the crime, and then he does his so-called job and arrests the person that committed the crime. So if you didn't arrest me, officer, that means that's because you wasn't there to so-called witness the crime. So when you come to court and the judge allows you to come before the court and make your statement, you're doing just that, making a statement, because you're only a third party complainant or a third party reporter, if anything. You're not a first-hand eyewitness to anything. Because like I said, if you're a police officer and you witness someone commit a crime, your job is to arrest them right there on the spot, not come afterwards, make a report about it, and then someone goes to the court and they try to, you know, follow up a case on it. And then you come to court and say, oh, yeah, I came after I got the call. We pulled up. The person told me what happened. I took the report, you know, da 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 da. And okay, yeah. Okay, so what? And you showed up and you made a report. Wow. Anybody could have did that. You know what I'm saying? In fact, a witness could have showed up and said, or went down to the precinct and wrote a statement and said, hey, I witnessed this or whatever. Doesn't mean that they are even necessarily true, because unless they got a witness to witness what they witnessed, they goddamn it, or they got some outstanding proof to prove what they say, then your word ain't valid either. It's just hearsay. And hearsay as well is not admissible as evidence before a court of law, because hearsay has to be backed up with facts and proofs. If you don't have any facts and proofs, then it's just hearsay. So the police third party report is just hearsay and cannot be admissible in the court of law as evidence. So, now remember, they just broke down about joinder and contract, right? So this is why if the police come before the court and they try to, and they make their statement, just let them make their statement. Don't question them and don't contract with them. Because once you ask them questions and you entertain their statements, you now just made their statements part of the evidence of the case. You know what I'm saying? Because you entertained it. Now, for example, one time I was in a situation where I told the judge that, and I said, "Yo, police records are not admissible as evidence in court." And the judge was asking me after the police had made these statements. The police was the court judge was asking me, the magistrate was asking me, oh, do you wish to ask them any questions, or rebut anything they said, or da 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 da. I said, no, yeah, I don't necessarily wish to ask them any questions. It's due to my knowledge that police statements are not admissible as evidence in court, in a court of law. And I put the judge on point, and I said, and on top of that, I noticed that you're taking note. So no, I don't need to ask him any questions. So you see how swift that was, and you see how roundabout that was. I roundaboutly actually did rebut to their statements and let him tell him that, well, Your Honor, police reports are not admissible as evidence in a court of law. Um, and therefore I don't need to ask him any questions and da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? And I see that you're taking notes, so now I'm good, whatever. So now it's like it's to the point where, okay, being that I let them know that whatever they say is not admissible anyway, so it doesn't matter what they say. And that was my roundabout way of rebutting whatever they would have said. And also not actually technically and formally responding to them or asking them any questions, which would have been an engaging with them or contracting with them or a joinder of their statement to the case now, because you entertained it, you responded to it. First law of contract law is offer and acceptance. If the police get up there and they make a statement, they only offered a statement to the court. If you start to rebut it or start to entertain it or start to question it, you now just made a joinder with it, meaning you contracted with it, meaning you made it part of the case now. You made it part of the contract. So the best thing for you to do is, like I say, in a roundabout way, let the judge know that police statements are not admissible as evidence in court, and no, you don't wish to question them. And I see that you're taking note, Your Honor. No, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? And then just be quiet. Do not entertain their statements, because if you do, you joined it with them in this contract. All right. So anyway, so now on the dead side, the public side, official, artificial, you have law of the sea. In the private, you have law of the land, which is common law, jurisdiction, do no harm. On the public, it's admiralty law, maritime law, which is law of the sea. Statutes, acts, rules, codes, municipalities, so forth. In the public, you're a dead legal person. In the living, you are living. In the private, you are living lawful man or woman. In the public, you're a legal entity that's registered. In the living, you're a living man or woman with a record that's recorded. You know what I'm saying? So you make a record of yourself. In the public, you're an artificial person known as a corporation and treated as a corporation. In the private, you're a natural person or a human. In the public, you're a public servant, bonded. In the private, you're a private sovereign, which is free. In the public, you're in the public capacity, which has limitations. And private, you're in a private capacity, which is unlimited. Um, so those limitations as far as like contract, because remember, like in the private, you are able to contract unlimited. In the public, you have limits to how you can contract because you can't create the contract or say, well, I want it to be this way. You just have to follow the protocols or the policies of the state. Because remember, we're a state property, and you just gotta, deal with the options they present to you. In the private, you create your own options as a master, not a slave. So anyway, legal privileges or benefits in the public, we have legal privileges or benefits like social services. They pay your rent, which is and they ask you for an eviction letter, which is evidence of a debt. Going back to HJR 192, the United States government is responsible to pay the debts of the American people. HJR 192 is also known as Public Law 7310, which states that all debts are paid for. You know what I'm saying? So that's why your Social Security is like a prepaid, credit card, prepaid account. You could get cable turned on by just using your social number and cut that right on. But what they try to do is reverse you and send you a bill 2 or 3 months after they hit you with that reversal. And now they're like, wait a minute, he's not supposed to know that he can have access to, or he can even have some public benefits, which you are supposed to have public benefits, but they don't even want you to know that. So they mess around and try to hit you with a reversal and make you pay some Federal Reserve notes. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, just be aware of all these things. Um, Legislated rights prescribed by the state and the public. In the private, you have unalienable rights that cannot be alienated. In the public, you're a debtor, you're liable for debts. In the private, you're a creditor, you create creator of wealth. You create um, wealth, you know what I mean, through credit, you know what I mean, through drawing up bonds and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? With the treasury of the United States of America, not your own private bond and just be like, oh, I got a bond, and you just make a bond out of nowhere. Like, really? Okay. What you gonna do with that bond? What have you done with that bond? Tell me what you're gonna do with that. Show me. Show and prove. But anyway, in the public, you have trustee always pays. In the private, you're the trust beneficiary and always receive benefits. In the public, you're accommodation party, you know what I'm saying, by joinder. You agree to be the straw man, or you agree to be liable for the straw man. In the private, you're a so-called secure party creditor. Now, I don't really do all that secure party creditor stuff, you know what I mean? If y'all want to, y'all can, that's on y'all, you know what I'm saying? But, it's what it is. Um, because the reality is, people be doing like UCC ones, and the thing is that when you do a UCC one, remember UCC one is still admiralty law, public statutes. So when you do a UCC one, you're giving the UCC one codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, jurisdiction over that um, estate, basically. You know what I mean? Because you try to make a claim on the straw man. The straw man basically represents the estate, and you're basically trying to make a claim on the estate. And then you make a claim on the straw man, and then the straw man makes a claim against you. Um, or the dead makes a claim on the living, and then the living makes a claim on the dead, and the dead makes a claim on the living. But you forget the dead is not allowed to make a claim. So how is the dead going to make a claim back on you? So that's where it's like not equal. There's no equal consideration in there. You know what I'm saying? There's no equal consideration. And just like in the public and private, you know what I'm saying? When you go to these public venues, like say for example, I always use court for example, because that's where they administrate your estate. It's basically a probate court where they're administrating your estate and trying to find a way that they can hold you liable for something. They want you to be the trustee. That's why you're supposed to flip it on them and let them know, listen, I'm the beneficiary, and if you're the beneficiary, that means that they can't be the beneficiary, and it means that they can't hold the benefits, which means that they can only be the executor or the trustee. And in all reality, the clerk, the person sitting next to the judge, the one who will be like saying a little secret, little one side, he's actually the executor for the account. He's the one making the account. And then he's sitting right there next to the judge, overseeing the judge, making sure that the judge does what he does because the judge is acting as a trustee. And you are the beneficiary because it's all trust law. They operate in trust law in the court. You got to understand that. The clerk is the executor, the judge is the trustee, and you are supposed to be the beneficiary to receive the public benefit. But what you do is, oh, now I finally realized too. Oh, this court of revelation, had a revelation. Um, when they say that's why they say you're supposed to waive the benefit. Because if you waive the benefit as the straw from the straw man, that means that you're not receiving the public benefit, meaning you're not being a joinder to the straw man, meaning you're not being a trustee or you're not being liable for it. So when you waive the benefit, you're waiving the public benefit. And now you're able to act as the living man and draw up your own credit. See what I'm saying? And now that credit or equity comes in the form of what's known as subrogation. Subrogation is your right to enact equity in the court because the court is dealing with equity. And Keith Little dropped the jewel. He said, "Equity delights in equality." You know what I'm saying? So, like I said before, it's all about equal consideration. So, you know what I'm saying? So when you talk about discharging debts, or when you talk about having a judge dismiss a case, whatever the case may be, you got to put things in proper perspective, and you got to let the judge know that he's the trustee. You got to make the judge the trustee. You got to play hot potato because it's like they playing hot potato in the court, and the potato is got written on it trustee. And they try to pass around that responsibility, like, oh shit, not me. No, I don't want to be responsible. No, you hold that. Oh no, you know what I'm saying? Like, and they try to, no. And now what you do is, like I say, by waiving the benefit, what you do is you throw the hot potato right in the judge's seat. And now he's holding the goddamn hot potato, and he got to be the trustee. See what I'm saying? So that's how you do that right there. So all right. See, and see what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna break these things down to you. I'm gonna teach you these things. Like, I'm gonna break these things down. I'm not going, I'm gonna break it down. I'm gonna teach. I'm gonna break it down so that you understand it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna sit here and drag you out, man, long. I'm gonna just break it down. Teach. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, debtor, legal, all right, trustee, all right, legal commerce, vessel of the sea, lawful trade. All right, so in legal in the public, you're dealing in legal commerce, and you're acting as a vessel of the sea, meaning like the straw man is actually lost at sea. You know what I'm saying? Because they consider you to be lost at sea. Um, and this is why when they're dealing with admiralty law, which is maritime law. Root word of maritime is marine, which is water. Root word of admiralty law is admiral, like an admiral of a ship, which is on water. So admiralty law, maritime law is the law of the sea. And as the admiral, the judge is trying to act like the admiral of the ship. You know what I'm saying? Because it's dealing with admiralty law. When you see the gold fringe behind the flag with the yellow fringe behind it, around it, that gold fringe represents maritime law, admiralty law. So they are actually, that's not the original flag. So they're dealing with, like I said, admiralty law. And this went out longer than what it was supposed to, but it's all good. Because I'm getting a well-working knowledge. And like I said, I'm dropping it consistently. So I'm trying to keep your attention there. Because I know a lot of times, man, people be like, oh man, you ain't doing that. I'm out. Now I'm trying to keep you with it. So I'm just dropping it consistently. So here we go, right? So like I was saying, yeah, so you're dealing with law of the sea. And like I said, they're dealing with the law of the sea, which is water. And they take that shit so deep, they try to act like they own the water in your mother's womb. So when your mother delivers that baby, remember, it's symbolic to the law of the sea, right? And like a ship of the sea. So your mother is like a ship pulling into the dock. And what do they call it in the hospital when she's giving birth? And what do they call a birth? Not birth, BE. RTH. You know what I'm saying? Birth is like a drop off, like a delivery. You know what I'm saying? Of a product or a good. So when they say she's giving birth, that means like she's dropping off the goods. And technically, what they say is on a lot of I don't know if they still put it on the modern day ones, but on the old school, if you look at an old school birth certificate, the mother is listed as an informant. Why is she listed as an informant? Because once again, remember, we are considered to be lost at sea, and your mother, she's labeled as an informant because they see it as, well, she found the baby lost at sea. When it came out her own womb, it was lost at sea, and she found it and handed it over to the doctors. Remember, like a ship pulls into the dock, and then you know how when you pull out the anchor with the rope attached to it, you pull out the anchor to go down to weigh the boat down so it stays put. You know what I'm saying? That anchor with the rope attached is symbolic to the umbilical cord that's attached to the mother. So when she drops the baby off on the dock, or the baby comes out and it falls into the hands of the doctor, the doctor, it falls in the hands of the doc. You know what I'm saying? The ship pulls up to the dock and she drops off the goods. And this is why they consider her to be an informant. And she's just handing over the lost child over to the doctor who found it. And now the doctor writes up a manifest. You know, when you hand off goods to a dock, you know what I'm saying? When you're dealing with ships and you're dealing with piracy and law of the sea and all of that, customs and all that, they write up a manifest, what's called a manifest for the goods that are delivered, and that's kind of like an inventory sheet you can call. So how in a warehouse they write up an inventory sheet to list all the products that they have in the warehouse. That's what the manifest is. So guess what your manifest is when you're born? The birth certificate. They draw up a birth certificate, which is a manifest. You know what I'm saying? An inventory sheet for the goods that were just delivered. What do they call a baby when it's born? They call it a delivery, right? Look up the term delivery in the legal dictionary and see how these terms, they use them but in a different form. Like I was saying the other day, they've taken the whole English language and they patented it, and then they've given their own particular or specific meanings to these words. And now when we speak in just common English, we think the word means this, but to them it means something else. See what I'm saying? So we got to understand legal terminology, common terminology, scientific terminology, medical terminology, legal terminology, all these different terminologies, because there's different dictionaries and different, fields of language for different fields of study. So we got to be well versed in all of these different things and also know how to rightly divide things. Don't go into court speaking social language. Yo, you're doing this because I'm black. Yo, you said black? You know what black means in legal terms? You don't want to say that. See what I'm saying? So you just put yourself in a low status, and they want you to say that. See what I'm saying? So you got to be very careful with words and define these things and know what they mean before you say them. Because, as they say, words are spells, right? How do you put together a word? You got to what? You got to spell it. So words are spells. Now remember, I told you they're dealing with all kind of magics. The magistrate is dealing with all kind of magi. He's dealing with all kind of magic. So you got to understand these words, they casting on you, they're casting spells on you. And a lot of times when they start talking on that legalese, you don't know what they're talking about. You're sitting there all in a maze and you daze. You're in a spell, because they're casting words on you that you don't even understand. Now you're in a spell. And then now, once you're in a spell, you turn into like a damn zombie. Remember? All rise, oh, face the judge. You know what I'm saying? And yeah. So you got, like I say, man, you got to be aware that this is what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? So that you don't get trapped up in all the nonsense. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to break that down for y'all today, man. I ain't gonna go too long. Like I said, it's already went longer than I was supposed to go. Because I be going in. But yeah, man. But I'm gonna check y'all in the next session, y'all. This been this, and once again, let me give my disclaimer. None of this I say is legal information. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only. You know what I mean? So this is not legal advice. But anyway, if you learn something, that's good, man. And I'll see y'all in the next session. Peace.